that in and of itself is a very narrow and confining avenue by which to effect change. And I would be, just like my other 6 colleagues on the Supreme Court, would be required to apply the law and uphold the Constitution. And I would do that. I've never had any problem doing that. Sometimes I have to hold my nose and do that, but you still do it. But again, there is still the ability to research, explore, write, look at best practices, and put those forth, to write those, maybe even in a separate opinion. But there is still the obligation, first to do the work based on the law, and then to recognize the impact that the case before you has on constituency, on the public, on voting rights, or whatever it is that comes before you. And that's where the individual background, experiences, perspectives come in. And so that needs to be, and that's what, and again, let me tell you a brief story about the importance of that. I had a case in the Court of Appeals once where a man had been convicted for the brutal murder of his girlfriend. She was found badly beaten, sexually assaulted, and strangled, and put in a closet, left for dead. And he was convicted of that crime. And the only evidence against him was that he was found in the living room watching television when her body was discovered. And it had been there for about a day. That was the only evidence against him. He was convicted, it was affirmed on appeal, and he was in prison for about 18 years. The Ohio Innocence Project got hold of his case. They petitioned the trial court on post-conviction relief. Post-conviction meaning motions were filing after all the appeals are exhausted. And said, hey, DNA testing has gotten better. If there's any biological material under her fingernail, can we get it tested? Because if it doesn't match our client, it will prove he's innocent. The trial court granted that motion and said, well, yeah, that's true. Which, again, she was strangled. She wasn't shot or stabbed. She was strangled. And there's naturally the tendency, you think, to go up and grab anybody who's strangling. And so at the time of the trial, they didn't find any tissue because technology wasn't advanced enough. The judge allowed testing and said, yes, you're right. If there's anything under the fingernails and it comes back and doesn't match you, it will prove that you're innocent. Did the testing, not on taxpayers' money, you know, this is privately funded, came back, did not match the defendant, right? You figure he's a freak. Not only did it not match the defendant, or I forgot, did sexual assault,
match somebody else.
There was semen found in the woman, and it wasn't the defendant, and he was still convicted. So came back and scrapings on his fingernails matched the semen. So you figure his lawyers were like, well, this is a slam dunk. They filed petition after motion to give the client release, new trial, motion after motion after motion after motion. Over a year, the trial court did not rule on the motion. Finally, they filed a writ of mandamus in my court. That's when a higher court can make a lower court do something. Filed a writ in our court to say, hey, can you make the judge rule on the motion? Can't say how the judge is to rule, but just make the judge do his or her job. Did that, and of course the judge immediately denied the motion. He said, well, the jury heard the semen didn't match you, and they convicted you anyway, so no, I'm not gonna let you out. That came to us on appeal, that decision, to not let him loose. Two of my colleagues voted to affirm that decision. When we had the hearing, I thought this was a slam dunk case. I thought we were all unanimously on board. We heard the case, and we don't discuss cases before we hear them. We heard the case, we go back into conference, and the judge was assigned a right to the hearing, so I had to affirm. And then the judge said, me too. And my mouth hit the floor. I said, are you kidding me? How can you affirm a conviction? The judge said if the biological material can be found on the fingernails and don't match the defendant, it will prove his innocence. And now that's exactly how it comes back, and the court denies it. Isn't that an abuse of discretion? Anyway, they didn't find it was. I was a lone voice. I wrote a scathing, and I mean a scathing dissenting opinion. And then you just had to let it go. And ironically, in the old building in Cleveland where this crime happened, I had to pass that building every Sunday going to church because it's on the path between my house and my church. And it's boarded up, it's been closed down for years. And as I would sit at the light sometime and I'd look at that building, and I would pray for that woman's children. She left 2 small children behind. And I pray for this defendant that if indeed he's innocent, because you never know whether somebody's innocent or guilty unless you're there. I don't care what the justice system says or does. You don't know if anybody committed a crime unless you have it on videotape or you were there. But what I do know is he should have never been convicted on the evidence that was presented at trial. And clearly he should have been released once his DNA evidence came back. And so I just went on with my life. About fast forward maybe about 3 or 4 years, one of my colleagues who sat on me with that case sent me an email, and it just simply said, King case. I had no idea what he was talking about. I asked my staff, one of my staffers, to check it out, and it was a newspaper article in the Cleveland newspapers saying that that defendant had been released and exonerated for the crime. What happened was in Cuyahoga County, and there was some other litigation that went on, but we got a new prosecutor who formed a conviction integrity unit who looked at that dissenting opinion and dropped the charges against him. So after 22 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit, he was finally exonerated. That's when I knew that I can't ever sit back and just say, oh well, and say, well, I'm outnumbered 2-1. You have to write what you see. And nobody else has that purview but the judges to see that. Not only that, I think one of the prosecutors, the prosecutor who tried that case and who argued to keep him in jail lost his job too, based on that case. And that's what has to happen. You're absolutely right. It can't be a we win, you win, they win, we lose. It has to be about justice. And even, and I don't always get it right. When lawyers file a reconsideration on a court, I'll go back and look and say, wow, did we really make a mistake? And if I find that we did, I change that opinion. We do it over. Yes, it's more work, but that's what I'm elected to do. And so that's what I hope to bring in the Supreme Court.
Very good.
You answered my question.
Yeah.
I have a question. I'm an attorney myself, so so I have a lot of respect for your office and everything. But one thing I noticed, like you look at the federal judiciary, especially the Supreme Court, and the idea is you have 3 branches of government, and the Supreme Court is supposed to be a check on the other 2, basically. Now I don't know how that's going to work now with the configuration we have, but that's the idea. But kind of you have the same governmental structure in this state and in most states. But I always got the idea that the state Supreme Courts don't see themselves as much of a check on the other 2 branches. It's like almost like they have a different, it's almost like everybody operates in their own sphere or whatever. Do you see it that way, or do you think it's like it is in the federal system where that branch of government is meant to be a check?
Well, I do see the Supreme Court as a check on other branches of government to the extent that they have acted in a way that is violative of the law or unconstitutional. It is a check. The General Assembly writes the laws and makes the laws for the state of Ohio. And that's their job, and you elect them to do that. And so if the legislature speaks on an issue, then that's the law. And whether I like it personally, or we like it or dislike it collectively, it is the law, and it remains that way unless it is unconstitutional. And then the Supreme Court has to come in and say it's unconstitutional, as it has done with several laws that have been passed in the legislature. As you know, our General Assembly, our legislature is not comprised of all lawyers. And that's shocking to some people to say, how can non-lawyers make the law? But that's the way it is. And not that I think that it has to be all lawyers, but clearly, but here's another problem with I think with legislation. Oftentimes legislation will be brought about because of a single solitary issue in a little hamlet part of Ohio, and then once it becomes law in the Ohio Revised Code, it's for the entire state. And so, what might work for a small hamlet, doesn't have practical application elsewhere. And so I do see it as a check, at least especially with regard to constitutionality.
Yeah. The other problem too is a lot of times a legislator will run up against some problem, they get a bug in there.